Hi, and welcome back to Ivy English. I'm Karen.
And I'm Chris Gorski.
Today is March 5th, and we're on page 16 in your magazines. And today we have a 2-day article about a widely misunderstood bird.
That's right. We're talking about the swift-footed giant that doesn't actually bury its head in the sand. Of course, we're talking about
ostriches. Because as soon as we see bury its head in the sand, we all know what we're talking about. But the problem is,
well, they don't actually do that.
I've known that for a long time, but I guess that expression is just so deeply entrenched in English that we will still keep saying it.
And not just in English, it's actually Latin.
Oh.
And we'll get into that tomorrow at the top.
I'm looking forward to that. Okay, so again, our title is The Swift-Footed Giant That Doesn't Actually Bury Its Head in the Sand. The ostrich stands apart among birds with its towering height and powerful frame. Adult males can grow up to 2.7 meters tall and weigh more than 150 kilograms, making them the largest and heaviest birds on Earth. A significant portion of that height comes from their long, flexible necks, which give the birds their instantly recognizable silhouette. With small heads, huge dark eyes, and thick lashes, ostriches may appear a bit comical at first glance. Yet their overall body structure is precisely adapted for life on land.
As flightless birds, ostriches do not use their feathers for flying. Instead, their soft, loose plumage provides insulation, helping them stay cool in the intense African heat and warm during cold desert nights. Their long, muscular legs are built for speed. Ostriches are the fastest birds on land, capable of sprinting over 70 kilometers per hour to escape danger. Each stride can stretch about 5 meters, propelling them swiftly across open plains. Their powerful thigh muscles provide both speed and defense. Each foot has 2 toes, an uncommon feature among birds, with the larger toe equipped with a sharp claw that can seriously injure would-be attackers.
While running, ostriches hold their wings slightly outstretched for balance, using them to steer and slow down. They live in small herds that roam the savanna, always alert to threats and ready to run at a moment's notice. From head to toe, the ostrich is a marvel of evolution, strong, graceful, and perfectly designed for speed and survival. Wow, that's kind of exciting just thinking about it, how strong they are, how fast they are.
I learned several things from this article, most notably that they only have 2 toes. I know most birds have 3. I did not know they only had 2, and I thought maybe they had, you know how like a whale has thigh bones even though they don't have legs? I guess apparently ostriches do not have those additional toes in their legs. They just got 2 big toes.
And that's pretty interesting. And they're pretty powerful and sharp, I guess.
I have a whole story about Johnny Cash if we get the time for it.
I want to hear it because actually I love Johnny Cash.
Okay. This is a great story.
I'm looking forward to that. We'll have to make time for it. Let's go back to the beginning. Our title again, The Swift-Footed Giant That Doesn't Actually Bury Its Head in the Sand. Just the title alone is very informative because if you didn't know it before, you may have believed that ostriches bury their head in the sand when confronted by danger. And that's why we have the idiom in English, well, you know, I know something bad is probably going to happen, but I'm burying my head in the sand. I'm not thinking about it. I do that for some things. And the other thing to watch out for is stress. So swift and footed has a hyphen between it. When you have an adjective, this is a compound adjective, that is linked with a hyphen. Both of them will be stressed, and the word after it will be stressed as well. So, for example, we will say bookcase, boyfriend, because they're compounds. This is not a compound. You just see that hyphen, stress all the words. Swift-footed giant. Now, you may think, well, what's that all about? A lot of people don't pay attention to stress, but they should. This is a rule that will be useful to you. You see that hyphen? Just stress everything. Okay, so swift-footed, swift just means fast. It has feet that can run very fast. It's a giant because it's the biggest of all birds, I guess.
It is.
The biggest of all birds and heaviest. Okay, I would not want to try to pick one up. Okay, and the first sentence we have, the ostrich stands apart among birds with its towering height and powerful frame. That sentence has captured me already because I think of how tall it is and I think of how strong it is, and I get a little nervous and a little scared thinking about being next to an ostrich when relations between us are not very good. I don't think I would do well. They can also run fast. So it's a bird that is not to be trifled with. That means you don't just kind of walk up to an ostrich and be impolite.
That's right. Even if you raise an ostrich on a farm, they can be aggressive, especially if there's a problem with its partner. It can be very defensive, and they are notoriously bad-tempered sometimes. In fact, in ancient Egypt, they used to use these towering and powerful animals to pull chariots. But because the tempers were... Yes.
They are strong, but they would have to be trained and willing to do it.
And that's the exact problem.
Yeah.
Now, this is news to Karen because it never really caught on except for a few emperors or pharaohs, I should say, in ancient Egypt, because these birds have terrible tempers. They could pull the chariots, but they would bite you and cause problems. They're kind of dumb, and so it just never really caught on. But it was noted in the historical record that these guys were strong enough to pull chariots. They must have looked pretty cool doing it.
Yeah, I'm picturing it in my head. But in that way, there's something like zebras, which is why zebras have never been domesticated like horses. Horses are very much like dogs and like humans. You can have really a close emotional relationship with a horse. A horse will come by and be really gentle with your baby. Horses are really, really very endearing creatures. But it sounds like ostriches are not like that, and zebras are not. So zebras look a lot like horses. They're basically a striped horse, but they have the temper of an ostrich.
Yeah, bad temper. That's a great analogy here, too, drawing that comparison between horses and zebras and just their tempers. They're just not great work animals.
Well, in that way, it's actually survival. You know, why should I do your work? Why should I want to do that?
No thanks.
I'm kind of amazed that horses can be trained that way, but they can develop a really close relationship with humans, right, and they get fed. So they do get a reward, I guess. So they're trainable, but not zebras or ostriches, really.
Ostriches can be very caring. They can love. In fact, depending on the personality, they can fall in love with you so much that they only want to mate with humans and they want nothing to do with other ostriches. But there are many examples of ostriches with terrible tempers. So they're not nearly as easy to domesticate and care for as say, like a horse.
That can happen with a number of animals like parrots.
Right.
When they really love their owner, they want to mate with the owner, and the same is true of dolphins.
Yes.
Yes, and that has actually happened, humans mating with them.
Nature's greatest horn dogs, the
dolphin. Yeah, well, then you've got bonobos. All right, let's go back to ostriches. So they are different from a lot of birds just because they are so tall and so strong. Adult males can grow up to 2.7 meters tall and weigh more than 150 kilograms, making them the largest and heaviest birds on Earth. They, on average, weigh 3 times as much as I do.
That's an unbelievable animal. When you see them up close, especially a full-size male, they are very intimidating creatures. And with that long neck, and they have a bad temper, you don't want to get too close.
You don't want to mess with them. A significant portion of that height comes from their long, flexible necks, which give the birds their instantly recognizable silhouette. Silhouette is just an outline. Often it's a dark outline. If you just see the outline, you know right away that is an ostrich just by the neck.
A significant portion means a very big part. When you have a flexible neck, that means it can move. Our necks are a little flexible, but nothing like an ostrich. So ostriches have 17 vertebrae. Those are your neck bones in its neck. Almost all mammals have 7 vertebrae, including giraffes. They have 7. Sloths weirdly have 9, but birds on average have at least 11 vertebrae.
Wow. So that means you can turn your neck even further back.
Ostriches, I believe, can turn their necks 180 degrees. 180!
Owls can do that.
That's a weird thing to do.
That's right. With small heads, huge dark eyes, and thick lashes, Ostriches may appear a bit comical at first glance. Now, the thick lashes got me.
Yes.
I was imagining those thick lashes, which we find kind of flirtatious and beautiful. Because I know when I see thick lashes on women on YouTube, I think, man, you have overdone it with the eyelashes.
I actually watched an ostrich mating dance. Because I was thinking about what I was going to talk about, and I know they have a funny mating dance. I couldn't quite recall it, and so I pulled up a David Attenborough clip, and that wonderful voice he has.
Yes.
And he just narrated this little clip, and they zoom in on the female ostrich's face, and she has those long luscious eyelashes.
Seductive.
Really, I thought of those too. I'm like, wow, look at those eyes. And then they cut to the guy, and he's just the goofiest looking critter on earth.
Why in the world would she want a guy like that?
Oh, seriously.
Yet their overall body structure is precisely adapted for life on land. We may think they look kind of comical, but there is a reason that they evolved into this body shape.
When something is precisely adapted for life on land, it is perfect for its situation. And when you think about where they live and what they do, it kind of makes sense that they're big, tall animals that need to see high over savanna grass. Let's go to paragraph 2. As flightless birds, ostriches do not use their feathers for flying.
Now, that's very interesting. There are a number of birds that do not fly. For example,
penguins.
Penguins don't fly.
Yep, emus, which is a lot like an ostrich. And what else?
Well, anyway, that's good enough. Some birds do not fly.
Because today is secretly Thanksgiving, turkeys can fly. I know because I've seen it.
Yes, okay.
Right.
Couple. Right.
Instead, their soft, loose plumage provides insulation, helping them stay cool in the intense African heat and warm during cold desert nights.
And that's a really important point because when we say desert, we think of a place where we're sweating like crazy, it's unbearably hot, but often it's unbearably cold in the evening.
That's correct. Now, the word plumage are piles of feather. If you listen regularly, you know I love to point out AGE means a pile of something. For example, cabbage is a pile of like lettuce leaves, and we have garbage.
Not lettuce leaves, vegetable leaves.
Vegetable leaves, thank you. Garbage. This AGE is telling you there's a pile of something here, and your plumage is loose, fluffy feathers. They're not really tight to the body the way most birds are. They're kind of messy like Einstein's hair, honestly.
That's a very, very graphic image. Yeah, and so when you have a word that ends with AGE, it's usually a collection of something, not one single thing. For that reason, check the dictionary. It's probably uncountable. You cannot add S. We don't say plumages. We just say he has very large plumage. We don't say lots of baggages. We say I have lots of baggage or a bag. You don't say luggages. I have many pieces of luggage. So when you see that AGE, it's a collective. Very often it is uncountable. You can't add S.
Insulation helps regulate your temperatures. And so intense African heat is strong African heat. And don't forget, desert only has one S because sand only has one S, whereas dessert has two S's because you can draw little dollar signs there. And desserts are always more expensive than your regular meals.
Never thought of that. It's a good way to remember it.
Their long, muscular legs are built for speed.
What image pops in your head when you read that?
You know, honestly, what I thought of, their muscular legs were built for speed. I thought of like chicken thighs, and that ostriches are red meat. That's honestly what I thought for some reason.
That's interesting. It's because, like we said, it's actually Thanksgiving now as we record. But what popped into my mind was a marathon runner.
Oh, interesting.
I thought of him at the starting point, and then he's just got these very muscular legs, and we can see them. He's wearing those short shorts. And that's what I thought of.
Absolutely. You're totally right. Those powerful, fast legs, you need big, thick thighs. You're not going to be thin. Let's continue. Ostriches are the fastest birds on land, capable of sprinting over 70 kilometers per hour to escape danger.
So this suggests that they are not the fastest of all birds because most birds fly. So I'm imagining that a lot of birds can fly faster than ostriches can run.
Indeed, they can. However, ostriches are also known to run in circles, so they are very fast in a big circle.
70 kilometers per hour is actually over the speed limit in a lot of places.
And think they're 150 kilograms. If they run into you, it is game over for you.
They have to be very, very strong to support all that weight going so fast.
Each stride can stretch about 5 meters, propelling them swiftly across open plains.
That is also a very graphic sentence. I'm just imagining these very large, very muscular ostriches in a big herd running across an African plain.
So a stride is a long, powerful step. Usually you have like a very direct goal when you are striding. And people can walk with powerful strides too. They're not lazily walking through a park. They're probably rushing to get to a place important for them.
Their bus is about to leave.
For sure. They're late for a meeting. When we propel, this is Latin. Literally, that means to drive forward. So that pro is forward and pel, you'll see all the time in English if you pay attention to it. And it just means to drive.
Okay.
All right. And just before we begin our next sentence, I want everybody to pay attention to the word plains. These are large, flat lands without trees. We'll see in paragraph 3, we're going to use the word savanna, and we'll see it again tomorrow. We can call them plains, but especially in Africa, we like to call them the savanna.
And it usually has low bushes and often a very dry climate.
That's right. It's too dry for most trees. Let's continue. Their powerful thigh muscles provide both speed and defense.
Okay, now we're kind of breaking out of just what I can do by myself. This is what I'm doing when I'm dealing with other threats.
That's a great way of putting this. So our next sentence, each foot has 2 toes, an uncommon feature among birds, with the larger toe equipped with a sharp claw that can seriously injure would-be attackers.
And my whole body now is really tense.
Yes, in fact, we know that most birds generally have 3 toes, 2 facing forward and 1 facing backward. However, some birds have 4, like for example, woodpeckers and owls have 2 forward and 2 back. And there is a kind of chicken that has 5 toes, and it's kind of weird to look at.
Oh, yeah.
This 2-toe bird it reminds me a lot of a dinosaur when I look at it. And as I spoke of earlier, the famed country musician Johnny Cash learned up close and personal how dangerous that could be. So Johnny Cash actually got addicted to painkillers due to an ostrich attack.
Oh, that was the reason.
Well, re-addicted to more drugs.
Yeah.
He unfortunately had lots of problems with drugs, and he had been clean for a while. But he had ostriches on his property, the weather was very cold, and this bird did not want to get captured and taken inside. Because this weather was so cold, the bird was in a terrible mood, and it caught this famous musician outside and attacked him with that giant toe. The bird broke 5 of his ribs, very painful, and Johnny Cash credited his large belt buckle that I know you can imagine him wearing.
Yes, I can.
That stopped that big toe from just cutting him open.
Oh, no.
So it caught him, and before it can really dig in, it caught that belt buckle,
oh, no.
and the bird just ran away. Because of his injuries, Johnny Cash needed to take painkillers because broken ribs really hurt. And that was one of the reasons why in the 1980s he was such a mess, because he became profoundly addicted to these painkillers due to this ostrich attack.
I never knew that.
It's an unbelievable story.
And I'm a Johnny Cash fan.
Same.
I never knew that. We're going to move on to our last paragraph. While running, ostriches hold their wings slightly outstretched for balance, using them to steer and slow down. Now, I think we're thinking of an airplane.
Do you know the anime Naruto?
Yes.
So when Naruto runs, he lets his arms drag. That's what I thought of. I was wondering,
yes.
Did Naruto get that idea from ostriches? I wonder.
I wonder. But as soon as it describes it that way, I can think of films of ostriches I've seen where they're sort of putting their wings out. I guess that's what they're describing.
They're so cute and silly at the same time.
And scary, yes. They live in small herds that roam the savanna, always alert to threats and ready to run at a moment's notice. So a lot of the weird things that we see in the world they have developed because plants, animals, everybody needs to develop defenses, because no matter what you are, if you're a living being, you have people who want to attack you.
Right.
So for example, spices. Why do we have spices? because spices developed these strong tastes to repel predators like insects.
Right.
So everything in the world, it gets a lot of things that are special about it from its fear of threat and trying to ward off threat.
That's exactly right. I'm looking at my large cup of coffee here, and caffeine was developed by plants independently across the world as a means of kind of killing the bugs that eat it. And it's actually not good for us either, but it's not strong enough to kill us.
Yeah, it's pretty enjoyable. Okay, so always alert to threats. That means they have become very tall and heavy and strong, and they need to use all of that to protect themselves from animals that want to attack them. From head to toe, the ostrich is a marvel of evolution, strong, graceful, and perfectly designed for speed and survival.
So from head to toe, of course, normally we talk about toes because most creatures have multiple toes and ostriches just have two, but the phrase in English from head to toe, from top to bottom, it just means the whole thing. The ostrich is a marvel of evolution. It is silly, but it's also a very powerfully designed creature, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And majestic. It's just something that you love watching in one of those David Attenborough films.
I love their mating dance. You really should take a minute to watch it.
I will do that.
It is pretty funny. Another weird note of ostriches, they don't sing. They just kind of make these deep guttural sounds, and they like to be very active at night. If you happen to go to the Taipei Zoo in the evenings, from my experience, the emus and the ostriches will really make a lot of noise. So right at closing, right when it's getting dusk, if you hang around, just kind of leave a little slowly. I'm not saying stay until after the gates close. What I'm saying is, don't rush to the gate 15 minutes early. Right when it begins to get dusk, these animals will start making lots of sounds, and you'll start hearing these incredibly loud, booming sounds. And you might think they're the lions, or you might think they're the elephants, but more than likely, it's probably the birds. It's going to be the ostriches. It's going to be the emus, because that's what they like to do. They like to sing at dusk. Unfortunately, they're not singers. They just have these weird guttural sounds.
I'm trying to imagine how I would imitate it just from that description.
I know from experience. It's a very weird sound.
I guess I won't try at least not on the air.
Okay, so very briefly before the end of today, if you're listening to the word ostrich, you may be thinking, is this related to the word Australia? And the answer is no, actually not at all. So an ostrich is actually Greek for the word sparrow. And sparrows are those small little brown birds you'll see everywhere. However, the word Australia is Latin for southern land. So it's not necessarily closely related at all. So I do like the idea that the word sparrow, those cute little brown birds, could become this massive creature in a different language.
Also, ostrich feathers are valued in the fashion industry. So in very fancy, elaborate clothes for women, at least in the past, they used to add ostrich feathers as decorations.
They also produce very strong leather. Apparently, it's some of the very strongest leather that you can buy. I have seen items made of ostrich leather. I did not know they were especially high quality. I thought it was just something that could happen. But while researching for today, I read that this is the gold standard in terms of the leather you can purchase.
My goodness. And actually, their eggs are also edible. There are places that sell ostrich eggs. They're huge.
Do they taste?
I haven't tasted one myself. I can't tell you. But if there's a market for them, people must think they're okay, at least certain people. In addition, they are also farmed for their meat.
Yeah, it's high in protein, low in cholesterol, but it's a red meat, which is weird to me. Birds are known for white meat. Am I right?
I can't comment on that, but I don't eat meat.
Right.
And you don't either.
Neither do I. So when I think of when you have that big ostrich thigh, it's red meat, to me that just seems weird and not right, but there it is.
Yeah, and I think turkeys are very similar. I never understood why turkeys were a big thing. They are not tender. Usually they're quite dry, but it's just custom, I guess, because of
habit.
Yeah, just because of the America's unique history or whatever. So yeah, they are actually farmed for meat. See if you have a chance to try it sometime.
I guess. Or maybe go to the savannah and see them, right? Because they are, really big animals. They really do stand out. and they tend to get hunted pretty easily. So you might see some making huge sprints across the savannah, and I imagine that's rather exciting.
So make sure that you stand well behind the fence, that you have a good fence in front of you, or if you are on a safari, you better stay inside your vehicle with the windows closed.
One last fast fact about ostriches. Their intestines are 14 meters long. I'll leave you with that thought.
What a useful fact to know. Okay, make sure you tune in tomorrow to hear the rest of the story about ostriches. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.